everyone. Welcome. I call meeting number 7 of the Standing Committee on Citizenship and Immigration to order. Before we go into the meeting, just health and safety reminder to all the attendees in the room to physically distance yourselves from others by at least 2 meters. Wear a mask unless you are seated and more than 2 meters from anyone else. This is a hybrid meeting. Some members are appearing in person in the parliamentary precinct and the others are appearing remotely. A reminder to all the members, please speak at a pace slow enough for interpretation to keep up. And the clerk will be tracking raised hands and keeping speaking list if needed. Today, we will be continuing our study on the impact of COVID-19 on the immigration system. And I would take this opportunity to welcome our witnesses for panel 1. It's Canadian Immigration Connections, represented by Manpreet Angela Grewal, immigration consultant. We also have City of Greater Sudbury being represented by Meredith Armstrong, acting director, economic development. Sudbury Multicultural and Folk Arts Association being represented by Bela Ravi, the president. For the second panel, we will have Robert Tyson as an individual, from Hope Welfare Society, Amit Kumar Verma, the lawyer, and from Collide Burrell, we will have Daniel Gerox, the president, and also Baptiste Elaine Borquades and Mark Despe, representing Collide Burrell. I welcome all the witnesses, and the witnesses will have 5 minutes for their opening remarks. We will start with Canadian Immigration Connections. I would welcome Manpreet Angela Grewal to please start. The floor is yours. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Manpreet Angela Grewal, and it's an honor to appear before the Standing Committee on Citizenship and Immigration. By way of background, I started my career in immigration with IRCC in 2005 as a service delivery agent at the Case Processing Centre in Vegreville, Alberta. At that time, I processed in-Canada extensions for visitors, students, and workers, and also processed in-Canada spousal sponsorships. After my work experience with IRCC, I went on to work with the Alberta Immigrant Nominee Program, the Ontario Provincial Nominee Program, and as an international student advisor with the University of Alberta. In 2011, I incorporated my company, Canadian Immigration Connections, and have been an immigration consultant for almost a decade. COVID-19 has presented unexpected challenges for IRCC and, of course, on individuals submitting applications to IRCC. COVID-19 has been difficult for individuals looking to reunite with their partners. I can tell you from firsthand experience of having worked with IRCC that when a reduction in processing times is a goal, then adding resources is required to achieve that goal. Processing times of spousal sponsorships will definitely require attention. I can also tell you from my work as an immigration consultant that when the processing of spousal sponsorships is kept within Canada, these files are processed very quickly. I have seen spousal sponsorships processed in as little as 4 months when the path of the file was from the Case Processing Centre in Sydney, Nova Scotia to the Processing Centre in Mississauga. When files are sent overseas for the finalization of processing, we are looking at timelines close to 12 months or sometimes longer. Therefore, we need to keep the vast majority of spousal sponsorship processing within Canada. This could be achieved through a dedicated and specifically trained business unit within Canada. Recently, IRCC announced updated procedures in regards to visitor visa applications from individuals that have reached stage 1 approval on their spousal sponsorships. A way to apply this efficiently would be to allow individuals to submit their visitor visa application with their spousal sponsorship. This is already being done within Canada spousal sponsorships and their ability to apply for open work permits. COVID-19 has left many parents and children uncertain on when they will be able to reunite again. It appears IRCC has not been able to strike the right balance in regards to the parent sponsorship program, as demand has always exceeded supply. We can take the current lottery system, and as others have suggested, we could put in a weighted draw to those sponsors that have entered multiple times but been unsuccessful. COVID-19 has also left many deserving international students with challenges outside of their control. For many international students, the work experience accumulated while on the postgrad work permit is essential for them to qualify for a permanent residency option. Postgrad work permit holders unable to find employment as new graduates, coupled with the challenges of COVID-19, those stranded abroad, and recipients of CERB or EI would find their permanent residency options limited, allowing postgrad work permit holders a one-time, 1-year extension would give these individuals additional time to gain the required work experience to possibly qualify for permanent residency. I also believe that targeted draws for the Canadian Experience class under Express Entry should continue, as this allows those individuals already in Canada a chance to be selected. Those are my comments today, and I welcome any questions the committee may have. And thank you once again for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks for your testimony. Now we will move on to Meredith Armstrong, representing City of Greater Sudbury. She is the Acting Director, Economic Development. Ms. Armstrong, you will have 5 minutes for your opening remarks.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. It is an honor to be asked to present with you today. I am Meredith Armstrong. I am the Acting Director of Economic Development for the City of Greater Sudbury, which is a beautiful city of about 165,000 people, about 4 hours north of Toronto in Northern Ontario. But I'm sure MP Sere has boasted of our beauty many times. We are very proud of our longstanding history in immigration from the roots of our community. We are also very proudly in the Robinson Huron Treaty and on Anishinaabe land, and we try to balance these considerations on an ongoing basis. We also have the third largest francophone speaking community outside of Quebec. Given this foundation, immigration has been very important to us. We have been a long-standing host of the local immigration partnership, and Bela has been a great partner. You'll hear from her very shortly. And we have also been designated through IRCC in 2019 as officially a welcoming community to Francophone immigrants and newcomers. All of these have been very important stepping stones. On top of this, we have faced a labor gap, and we have great need for new talent. This has been a long-standing issue. We have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country, and this has been compounded by COVID. I'd like to say that we are relatively new in terms of being this close to current immigration processes, and our city and our community has, really committed to extensive training. Pardon me, because as you will know, immigration is a very complicated sector. We are a proud participant in the Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot Program, one of 11 communities across the country, and this has really ramped up our game. We work very hard to make sure that we're managing expectations, because immigration is only one piece of a larger puzzle to address our labor market needs. And within that, the Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot is one tool. It's not necessarily the fastest, but it certainly gives us an opportunity to engage employers in a new way and engage candidates in a new way who may not otherwise fit very well into an express entry program. COVID has obviously had challenges for all of us. COVID makes it difficult to address all of the administrative pieces for the RNIP, as we call it, the Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot. It makes it difficult for us to get out to employers to do face-to-face site meetings and address their issues. We were lucky enough in the early stages of the immigration pilot to establish the expectation that we would draw from newcomers and immigrants who are already in the community. This allows us to tap into a really wonderful community of international students at our 2 colleges and our university. And this also helps to establish the ultimate goal of our work, which is retention in the community. We are not a major metropolitan area, but we have a nice balance of quality of life and larger city things going on. COVID has also made it difficult for some of the administrative pieces. Language testing has been delayed in some cases. I think it was well stated by the first witness that the reunification of family members continues to be brought forward to us as a concern. And the fairness of a lottery system has been questioned. So I think whether that is tweaked would be of great interest. The backlog obviously also creates real issues. I would say that as a municipality, we have been really thrilled with the support we've been provided with by our IRCC contacts. We've had really great response time. We have a dedicated service channel, which has made all the difference because we have employers who are looking for hundreds and hundreds of people at a time, and we can only process people, at a certain level in order to ensure the integrity of the system is in place. Finally, I would also say that in terms of messaging, there are two key things that we are working on in Greater Sudbury. First of all, we recognize systemic racism throughout our community, and it makes it difficult for employers who may otherwise not be aware of the opportunities to bring in brand new talents, the importance of new perspectives, and becoming a welcoming community. And we're working with our local immigration partnership to start to address some of those pieces. The other thing is we are working to ensure that people understand that immigration is a crucial piece of our economic recovery plan for the country. And this is not so easy when people turn around and say, well, how do you say immigration is so important when you're looking at layoff of hundreds and hundreds of people? So I think it's really important to be unified
Sorry
in
for
our.
interrupting, Ms.
No
Armstrong. Your
problem.
time is up.
Thank you
So
very
you
much
will
for the
have an
opportunity.
opportunity as we go into the round of questioning. Now I will move on to Bela Ravi, the president of Sudbury Multicultural and Folk Arts Association. Madam Ravi, you have 5 minutes for your opening remarks. Please, you can start.
Meredith, I could have given you a few of my minutes. I don't have that. I just want to introduce myself. I'm the president of Sudbury Multicultural and Folk Arts Association. I've been in this community for 25 years. I'll tell you all, it's a gem. It's won't say any more than that. I'm sure Mark has informed you all that. I'm also part of the local immigration partnership where we are working on, we're showing how immigration matters and the benefits of immigration, and of course in the cultural aspect of it also. And we are also a 30+% population is over 60. So we need that that immigration, and our students are foreign students. We are trying to retain them here, and we're hoping the process is going to give them some kind of a leeway with this. Like Ms. Garwal said, they cannot get the hours for their work experience to apply for the PR card. They are at a standstill, and it is a financial drain on them, and also emotional, more now so because of COVID. So we're hoping there's something in there that we can do to help. We get a lot of those questions at Sudbury Multicultural, and would like to be able to help these individuals. And I'm part of the India Canada Association. I'm very much involved with all the colleges and universities in with particularly with the students. And I'm looking forward to your presentation today and listening to you all and see how we can make this a better process and help our community grow and help us retain people in our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Ravi. Now we will start with our first round of questioning, and it will be started by Mr. Hallen. Mr. Hallen, you have 6 minutes for your round of questioning.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses for appearing in our committee today. I'd like to ask Ms. Greywall, in our constituency, in my constituency office, and I'm sure most of the other ones as well, we hear complaints of the length of time it takes to process some of the study work or TRV applications. In your vast experience, like you said, you work for IRCC as well. What can IRCC do to provide a standardized processing time, like across these different visas? How do you see that pan out?
Thank you, Mr. Hallen. I think I continue to see a wide range of processing times even within my office. I think there are two approaches we can take to this problem. I think similarly to what I suggested for the spousal sponsorships, perhaps a dedicated business unit within Canada is also required for overseas processing of certain lines of business. Or the other option I can think of is that IRCC can perhaps redistribute work amongst different visa offices so that processing time across different visa offices are somewhat kept in line.
Thank you very much for that. And again, given your experience, what are your thoughts on permanent residency options for, uh, we call them low skill, but I mean for people like who are in the trucking industry who are providing such essential services right now, or those people that are in the healthcare field that are also providing life-saving services to people. How do you see a permanent residency path for them?
From my experience with the different immigration departments, as well as an immigration consultant, I think we've seen that COVID-19 has revealed that all skill levels are equally important. So low skill, high skill, they're all important. From truck drivers to hotel cleaners to meat processors and those providing services in healthcare. Canadians rely on temporary foreign workers for many essential services, and these temporary foreign workers come in the form of individuals that are on post-grad work permits. They may be in Canada on working holiday work permits, or they may be tied to a labor market impact assessment, to name just a few. Um, I think that all levels are really important, as there's certain occupations that Canadians and permanent residents there's certain occupations that they're reluctant to take. For example, long haul truck drivers is an extremely difficult job that not many Canadians or permanent residents may necessarily be lining up for those positions.
Thank you so much. And I know many of our constituents really appreciate your words, especially for those long haul truck drivers who we saw in the beginning of the pandemic weren't even able to use washrooms or even the drive throughs. They were having many difficulties, and they were, going coast to coast, risking their lives to provide life-saving supplies. So thank you so much for that. And we all know that all these jobs carry an amount of dignity that we should they take pride in their job, and we take pride knowing that they're doing that job. So thank you for that. So my next question is based on that. What type of permanent residency program, if you can formulate one, what would that be? What kind of permanent residency program do you see for those people that are providing those services right now?
Um, I would say that previously the Canadian Experience class seems to be a good fit for these low skill occupations, as they're called. The Canadian Experience class used to be a pass or fail system in which individuals um, with Canadian work experience and a designated level of English or French were able to apply directly to IRCC for permanent residency. Individuals with Canadian study and or work experience combined with good language skills are shown to integrate into the Canadian labour market more successfully than those that do not possess these attributes. So I think the previous reiteration of Canadian experience class is something that could be considered for these low skill occupations.
Thank you very much. My last question is you touched upon this about do you think that the one-time extension that you talked about should apply to all the post-grad work permit holders?
I think first an application would have to be made from those individuals that are interested, because not all post-grad work permit holders may require extra time. And then I think factors such as when the post-grad work permit was issued and how much time is remaining are factors that can be considered. if the postgrad work permit was issued in 2020 and it is only a 1-year postgrad work permit, um, then definitely I can see where an extension would come in handy. So I think there would be a few factors that can be considered, but generally speaking, I think yes.
15 seconds left.
I'll just defer my time, 15 seconds. Thank you again to everyone.
Thank you. Now we will move on to MP Surrey. MP Surrey, you have 6 minutes. Please, you can start.
Merci, madame.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all three witnesses for the information you provided us today. It is quite useful for us to look at different ways to proceed. I have one question for Meredith Armstrong from the Greater Sudbury area.
And working closely with RRC. And you mentioned during your presentation, when you're looking at, we have, over 2,000 international students. We want to try and keep them in the community. We also launched some of the new innovation programs like the Rural Immigration Pilot Project in the area. And I just wanted you to see your comments on how that's benefited the region, and what recommendations would you have for us at the federal level here to make some changes to the program itself, to make sure that we look at meeting the labor gap needs in the community.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Madam Chair, I would say that we are still in the first year of our participation in the Rural and Northern Pilot Program, but I have to say that being part of a network with 10 other municipalities of all shapes and sizes has been one of the biggest, points of value of our participation. And as I mentioned, and as you've reiterated, we do draw on our international students. I think because the program is designed for communities that don't otherwise have the same numbers of newcomers coming each year, we need to make sure that these communities are supported with the funding and the staffing to ensure that they have the staff who are able to process the applications, ensure the program integrity, but I'll also just be available. We have received hundreds and hundreds of emails just in Sudbury before the program even launched. That continues to be the case. Those are not only from candidates, but from employers. And so we've worked hard to make sure, as I mentioned, that we are managing those expectations. It takes a long time to meet a candidate, get to know that person, get to know their family situation, spouse and children. We often look for families with children because they are much higher likelihood of residing in the community over the long term. So again, it's time that it takes, and it takes people. We need to keep the same people in those roles over the longer term because this is relationships. We take it very seriously that we are affecting the destinies of individuals who believe strongly in taking a jump out of Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver and spreading out into other parts of the country. So I think the opportunity to be part of a program has to come with the right funding and support to ensure that the system is in place over a longer term.
And thank you, Armstrong, for that, because that leads to my second question to Bella or Riva. Really, the work that you do in the community for the past 25 years have been amazing. Thank you so much on the work from the India to the Saturday night dances, and food is wonderful. So thank you for that. But when we're looking at your experience on the, in the past, the Multicultural Center used to deal with settlement agency. The previous Conservative government cut the immigration RRC office in Sudbury. So wanted to get a sense from you, what can we do better to support settlement agencies in the community so that we could attract, retain more immigration levels all across the Greater Sudbury?
Well, thank you for this opportunity. Being at the Multicultural Center over the last 15 years, I've been a part of the board there and see the funding cut that have come in for us to maintain what we have for the ongoing numbers that we're getting now, which we are very happy to get the numbers, but our funding has been cut down drastically. So, like Meredith said, we need the funding and the personnel to have that relationship to retain and provide the services these people need. So my request to you is that our funding, get reinstated to a point where we can do what we would like to do. We at Sudbury Multicultural right now have a staff of really 1.5. We have 2 people who work 4 days a week to provide the services needed. So that has become a challenge for us, and the and I hate to say it, everyone says we're always looking for money, but that's what makes us give out the services that are needed, and we really look forward to the numbers going up. But
Thank you. And you mentioned about messaging and looking at. Do you have any advice or recommendations to the federal government? How can we support the municipality to attract and newcomers and integrate them more in the community? Because you talk about racism and how do we try and do better together to make it more welcoming?
yeah, you know what? One of the things that I have having conversations with universities and colleges here, one of the people, Bill Best, said to me, like, not everybody can travel, so we're bringing the world to people, and the education and what they get out of that is so important. So bringing the world here, and they're here already and they're trained. So let's have the tools.
Sorry for interrupting, Miss Madam Ravi. Your
Thank
time
you.
is up.
It
We
goes
will
by
now.
fast.
Oh yeah, 6 we will now move on to Madame Nohmadian. Nohmadian, you have 6 minutes.
Thank you very much. And thank you to our witnesses. Your experience will really help us. And I would like to say hi to the people in Sudbury. A quarter of my family lives there, and it is a great place. I have one question for Ms. Grewal. You have seen both sides of the coin. You have worked at the department and you have worked as an immigration consultant. So I would like to hear you about cases where one document might be missing and the whole file is being sent back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and sometimes it takes months. Should we always look at the whole file first and ask systematically for the missing documents to be sent?
Thank you for that question. And I have to say that sometimes the document is not even missing. So, for example, right now I have at least 3 spousal sponsorships on which IRCC has advised that the use of representative form is not there. The form is there. We have a copy of the application package, and they have advised that they are not able to release the file number because the use of representative form is not there. Those types of challenges are incredibly frustrating. So there is a web form we can use to submit the inquiry, and oftentimes we have to submit multiple inquiries and duplicate our work. And so it's incredibly frustrating. From the perspective of IRCC, I can see why they want complete applications. If they were to hold every file and then ask for a document, it would really slow down processing times. They're putting the onus back on individuals to ensure the application is complete. I can understand from that point, but I do think certain exceptions should be made, especially perhaps during COVID. I think better attention does need to be paid to the documents that are already there. And certain documents, if they're not essential to the processing of the file right away, then maybe that criteria of what gets sent back can be examined. So yes, I definitely think that, but I know myself and other colleagues are very frustrated when we get notification back saying the use of representative form is not there. It happens over and over again, or sometimes documents are there, and that's even more frustrating when a file is sent back, because an individual loses so many months, and it could be something very, very minor.
Thank you very much. I have a question for Ms. Armstrong.
Ms. Armstrong, you talked about the need to have foreign labor and a shortage of labor pool. Now, we've had employers who are concerned that we're going to stop processing the work permit applications and the labor market impact studies because we're told that there's such a high unemployment rate that we don't need any foreign workers. So I'd like to hear what you have to say about that, because that's an argument that we're hearing. People are saying we can't take the people who are unemployed here and suddenly turn them into welders with 15 years of experience. So I'd like to hear from you about the labor shortage and the unemployment rates are not necessarily the same things.
I think you've made a very good point. In fact, our labor shortage in Sudbury has been going on for quite some time, and it's across all sectors and at all different levels of skills and experience. So I'll tell you that our hospitality, hotel work, housekeeping has been mentioned. Personal support workers, we're desperate for those, as well as all kinds of welders. We have a mining supply and service sector with hundreds and hundreds of companies and entrepreneurs who are looking for almost all of those ranges of experiences. So I think that the idea is that people need to understand that there are different approaches needed for different levels of experience. So we need to support those entrepreneurs who have worked very hard over the last few years to increase their capacity to go after global markets. And they actually are equipped to find a specific person with a skill set they're looking for. We also need to make sure that employers are equipped to hire, 15 housekeepers very quickly because they're turning away business when they don't have those people in place. We also see that within a newcomer's audience, there's often a willingness to take on jobs that Canadians, for one reason or another, may not be as willing to take on. So I think that we are very proud of newcomers who have taken on tough jobs and made really built a life for themselves, built business for themselves, and hired other people. So I think we need to say it's not one size fits all, and unemployment participation rate is another important number that is misunderstood often. And so I think there's an education process that is needed for our communities, and smaller communities who are just getting into this game, need some committed time to make sure they have the understanding of the perspectives.
I don't have much time left, but I'm going to take my chance. You talked about Ms. Ajla-Groa. You were talking about giving additional points to people who've had several parents and grandparents applications. But if somebody is just applying for the first time, isn't there a risk that they'll figure that there's no way they're going to get it? And so, and hopefully we'll have a second turn at this.
Maybe in the next opportunity, we will now move on to Ms. Kwan. Ms. Kwan, you have 6 minutes for your
Thank you very much.
questioning.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you to the witnesses. I'd like to first go to Ms. Growal. On the issue around post-grad work permits, the reality is that many of the students' permit is going to be expiring in the coming weeks. And so they're very anxious about it. And given the workload that's before IRCC with the delays in processing, should the government not explore ideas of how they can automatically renew those with expiring work permits so that they can actually have status and be able to secure that in place during this COVID period?
Yes, I'm not sure from having worked with the department how a blanket extension process would work. I think that could be a little bit troublesome. Having worked for IRCC, I think a realistic approach would be for individuals to make application. However, the postgrad work permit application process has been fairly straightforward. There's not a large amount of documents that are required, a completion letter, their transcripts. So if an individual already has a postgrad work permit, that criteria has already been assessed. And for them to make a new application, I think it would be quite simple for postgrad work permit holders to be able to make a new application as long as there was criteria that was announced which allowed them to do so. Similarly for spouses, we've recently announced if they've reached stage 1 approval, the dual intent, the changes in the dual intent. So I think with a few changes, it would be very easy for them. They just need to be given a mechanism by which they can even submit this extension application.
Yeah, the problem, of course, is that IRCC don't have enough resources. The minister actually announced the 14-day processing for extended family reunification applications. That 14 days is not being met. And so I'm trying to figure out a way to suggest to the government how they can save scarce resources to get on with the processing. So I'm very worried that with the post-grad applications, that people would actually miss their deadline. Even if they announce it now. As you know, the government had made an announcement with the Guardian Angels program. They still don't have an application process for the Guardians Angels. So there's a lot of talk and very little action. So I'm very worried about how that will play out. Just switching over to another sector, the caregivers. As a result of COVID, they have lost time through no fault of their own. They have to meet their 2-year work requirement. In the meantime, their children are aging out. Would you support the call for the government to accept the lost time towards their 2-year work application, as well as the proposal to ensure that the children who are aging out, that there be a mechanism to freeze their age in time so that they don't end up being outside of the PR application process?
That is an excellent question. And those individuals that aren't able to accumulate their work experience before their dependent children have reached where they no longer meet the age of dependent, that's a very good point. I think it's definitely an area that the government needs to consider. So yes, I would definitely support maybe a freeze in the lock-in date of the age. So definitely that is something that should be considered. I agree with that.
The other aspect is this: with the certificate of PR, many of the folks who've actually gone through the entire process, they've been approved, but of course their certificate of PR has now expired and they have no ability to actually get it renewed. Even IRCC, in my office, in contacting them through the inquiries line, they say that they have no idea when this will happen. And so people are stuck, their lives are completely in limbo. So would you agree that the government should in fact just recognize certificate of PRs and honor the expired certificate of PR so people can get on with their lives?
I can see that presenting some problems. I think in some regards, some individuals, unfortunately, we are patients all across the board for everything, whether you're an immigration consultant or a lawyer or an individual or the department, everyone's patience, unfortunately, is being tested due to COVID. I think there are some areas that unfortunately individuals will just have to wait until IRCC gets to them.
Sorry, can I just interrupt for a second? You say that you see some problems with recognizing expired certificate of PR. What are those problems?
Individuals that maybe don't meet residency obligation, that maybe are trying to use an expired document where their residency, they don't meet the residency. So it would be very difficult perhaps to determine which individuals don't meet it if they're traveling with an expired. So I guess criteria would have to be established on how expired this document can actually be that they're traveling with.
Expire within the COVID period, because most of the folks actually who were approved during this period and during the COVID period, their certificate of PR have now expired. So therefore they cannot utilize that document to get into the country. And they don't really have the ability, because of IRCC don't have a clear process in renewing their certificate of PR. I'm not talking about expired certificate of PR from
Ms.
6
Kwana,
years ago.
sorry for interrupting. Your time is up. Thank you. We will now move to our second round of questioning. We will have MP Soraya for 5 minutes. MP Soraya.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses for their the good advice what they're giving us. I heard the word labor gap from Sudbury. I hear the labor gap in Toronto all the time. The issue is we have the people what can be done, but possibly can be done. We have 5 years back, the students were about 5% or 10% students were working in the restaurant industry or the transport industry. Then become 20, then 30. In many industries, they're about 80 to 100%. Only the students are working, or what can be done to for them? They are here. They speak the language. They understand the Canadian culture. Um, they are perfect for Canada. What can be done? What would you recommend to make sure we can keep these students in Sudbury, in Toronto, in BC, or in Montreal on the East Coast? We can start with Ms. Armstrong, please.
Thank you for the question. I think that's a really good question that we know is there's no one silver bullet, and it can't be done by any one organization. So here at the city, we have a leadership role, but we are in close partnership collaboration with our 3 post-secondary institutions because they're the main driver for a decision by a student, international or even domestic, coming from a different part of the country to come to Sudbury. So we need to make sure that they have the support they need to continue the programs, particularly at the college level, that the applied programs that are needed by the industry. We need to make sure that we continue to support employers in considering the talent pool we have right here in the city. As you say, that they are here, they love Sudbury, they want to stay for the long term. We actually have quite reasonable, housing rates, although we've had a really busy year for home sales, I have to tell you. Some employers really get it, and they are long-standing partners. They have trained, really what becomes a wonderful alumni of students who go on to become really talented employees. Other employers haven't necessarily considered that pool yet. So we need to support our colleges through, folks like our Chamber of Commerce, through our local immigration partnerships, to ensure that employers understand that they can and should consider hiring international students. And I think that programs through both our provincial and our federal partners that provide internships, funded internships, are a wonderful way, pretty low risk really, for an employer to consider taking someone on who is new for a short period of time. And I think a combination of these things will start to, hopefully secure that talent for those employers.
Thank you. Manpreet Grewal, since you know from the both sides, from the IRCC as a consultant, what can be done? How can the government or we can help out for these students? That I know if those people, when they get the immigration, they're going to be here for the next 30 years. They're 20, 22, 23, 24 years old. Again, as I said, they speak the language, they understand the Canadian culture, and they're absolutely willing to work hard for the number of years to go. If Manpreet, you can tell us what can be done from the both sides so they can stay back for the long term.
So if I understand your question correctly, Mr. Soraya, it's how can we retain international
Absolutely.
students? I think, again, with international students, perhaps we also need to consider, again, offering them the ability to apply under low skill occupations as well. I see many international students as new graduates. They're not necessarily right away able to work into a skilled position. So many international students are working in NOC C or D occupations. And these individuals have Canadian education, they have the language, and by working in those NOC C or D occupations, they will eventually become skilled, but their starting point may be at a lower skill level. For example, some international students may be doing the occupation of long haul trucking because financially they find that very lucrative. They don't have maybe a spouse or children, so they're able to perform this occupation. So I think in regards to international students, if we allowed them some permanent residency options under NOC lower skilled occupations, I think we would be able to retain more international students in Canada.
In the GTA, in the GTA, same thing I've seen in
Last 10 seconds left.
Oh boy. Okay, thank you so much, Madam Chair. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will now move on to Mr. Reagan. Mr. Reagan, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Ms. Aula Grewal, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name, which I probably am. What have you seen as the major trends in the immigration consulting profession since the beginning of the pandemic?
I think right now the major trend is individuals want to reunite with their family members. So we're getting a lot of inquiries on individuals that want to reunite with their spouses or their parents. Um, there was a lot of questions regarding when the parent sponsorship program would come out because there was a delay due to COVID. So when that was announced, that alleviated some concerns. I think spouses are probably the biggest concerns. Whether the individual is in Canada as a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident, or an international student, or even an international student that's looking to come to Canada, a lot of the questions I get is how can I bring my spouse? So I think the biggest issue right now that I see is probably spouses.
You're probably aware that last year the government introduced changes to the regulation of immigration consultants. And of course, as I imagine you know, this will involve creating a new regulatory body mandated by statute and making updates to the compliance regime and educational requirements. You see these changes as something that will help your colleagues, you and your colleagues in your roles?
Yes, definitely. I think any increase in standard to the profession, I see an increase in the education standard, and I think that will definitely be a positive. There were a number of smaller schools that were opening as well. So I think with this new school, it seems to be more of a more confined or contained. It'll be a better program, it looks like. I think we're headed in the right direction.
You're probably aware that family and spousal reunification, which you've mentioned, is one of the government's priorities. The recent announcement on spousal sponsorship increases, of course, it increased IRCC staff assigned to spousal sponsorship by cases by 66%. So this is the government says this is on track to lead to 49,000 decisions by the end of the year. Do you think these measures will help speed the process? And what other innovations should we push for?
I thought that this was absolutely an excellent announcement. And I can see from the clients that have been waiting, or I'm starting to see the files moving, it's an excellent announcement. But I think the long term goal has to be to add resources because usually when we're adding, if we're increasing processing of one stream, one line of business, I worry that another line of business will suffer and which line of business will be suffering. So my concern is that's great that we're doing that. I think it's excellent. It was a really good decision. However, we need to add resources so that other lines of business are not suffering, especially with the increase in immigration that we're set to see. I personally would really like to see an increase in um, individuals processing those applications so we don't see then another line of business suffering from longer wait times.
Let me go back, if I could, for a moment to the legislative changes for consultants, because, of course, this arose, I think, as a result of some cases of fraud and abuse, including some here where I am in Nova Scotia, and affected the reputation of the profession, obviously. So, do you feel that this will allow your professional self-regulatory body to have more power to pursue unscrupulous consultants? And what challenges did you see with the former regulatory or former system in terms of what was there before to regulate the profession?
I would certainly love to see the reputation of immigration consultants increase, and I welcome any changes. I think one of the problems with the previous regulatory body is they didn't have enough resources to pursue criminal charges or investigations. There was not enough of a punishment for those individuals that were doing behaviors, illegal behaviors, taking advantage of immigrants. So I believe that certain amount of funds do need to be allocated to the individuals that can pursue um, the allegations, such as CBSA. Once it's made clear that there will be criminal charges, that there's consequences for your actions, I really think those involved in that type of behavior may think twice.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
7 seconds left, Mr. Reagan. Thank you. Now we will move on to Madame Normandian. No, Madame, you have 2.5 minutes.
Merci beaucoup. Je vais en profiter pour
Thank you. I'll ask my question again to Ms. Aujla Grewal. You have suggested that we give extra points to the grandfather, grandmother lottery to people, but how do we help people get through that cannot do that at all because they do not have the kind of those kind of people to sponsor? How would you do it?
question correctly, Ms. Normandine, I think what you're asking me is if an individual will be discouraged from submitting an application if it's only their first attempt. Is that correct? I think IRCC is trying to find the right balance, and it's difficult because the demand is far greater than the supply. I think we continue to try new things to see which one will be the best fit. There are other items perhaps in the weighted draw that could be considered, maybe the length of time you've been apart from your parents, maybe the age of your parents. So maybe other things could also be entered, but again, adding any additional variable could complicate it. But I think it's just trying to be as fair as possible because it's a lottery. If someone is not selected, they may feel they don't have their luck isn't working. Um, so perhaps we try this and see if this will be a little bit better suited. Dans tous les cas, je comprends.
In all of the cases, I understand that a pre-selection would be a good thing. Even if we keep the lottery idea, at least have a pre-selection. What would you think?
Pre-selection based on income could be difficult because there are a number of variables, family size in Canada or abroad. And in a sponsor's family size in Canada can change based on if they have a new child or have a divorce. I'm not quite sure that a system can be developed to capture the things that just naturally happen in life and change in family size. So I'm not sure how much more we can upfront request.
Sorry for interrupting, Ms. Angela Grewal. The time is up. We will now move on to Ms. Kwan. Ms. Kwan, you have 2.5 minutes. Please start.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to just touch on the issue around additional resources for IRCC. I think, Ms. Julia Grewal, I think you're absolutely correct to say if we don't increase staffing resources, we're going to be really caught out with the backlog. Otherwise, moving resources from one stream to another doesn't really ultimately help the problem. And so is this something then that we should be wanting to see by way of additional resources? And do you have any suggestions of how much by way of resources should the government be inputting into the system?
Unfortunately, I can't say how much because I'm not sure as to the numbers of staff at the offices. I think IRCC would be best suited. I think additional resources need to be added to the point where processing times are not being affected too much. So if I think that would probably be the best. I'm not sure in regards to resources, but maybe with the use of technology, now we're all being forced to use technology, and perhaps this will result in some natural efficiencies as well. So perhaps it won't even be necessarily such a great manpower. Maybe even the use of technology and other efficiencies can be utilized.
Speaking of efficiency with technology, I know that for citizenship, for example, testing of citizenship, we have not yet actually moved into using technology to do the testing. And that's something that people have been calling for and wanting to see. Is that an area that the government should explore, in fact, move in that direction to allow for testing to take place through technology, Zoom and the like?
I think it could definitely be explored when we are exploring technology for so many other areas, such as hearings. We could introduce it also for spouses that require interviews. So I think, yes, definitely technology has to be something that is definitely um, being considered, as we don't know how long this pandemic will last, and we do need to try to get things somewhat back to normal, hopefully
With
soon.
with respect to cases that are sent back or files that have been sent back because somebody's
Sorry
missed
for
some.
interrupting, Ms. Kwan. Your time is up. Okay, so now, based on the time left, we will have 2 minutes for the Conservatives and 2 minutes for the Liberals before we end this first panel. So now we will have Mr. Soraya. You have 2 minutes, so you can please start. You are on mute, Mr. Soraya. If you can unmute yourself, please.
All right. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. My question is for Pali, Ravi, and Sudbury. Sudbury is a beautiful place, beautiful town. You mentioned what can we do, what possibly can be done to keep those students and the other workers, keep them in Sudbury. And this second part of my question is, you said your funding was cut. Did you receive any more funding in the last 5 years from this government?
No, we have not. Our funding, in fact, has been going down over the years. And I feel to keep the students there, we have to show them that there are opportunities for them.
Absolutely.
And maybe like Meredith said, like maybe a co-op, an internship working with the businesses, because there is a hesitance. I have seen it personally to hire somebody who's from outside of Canada. But remember, these people have been trained here. And like you said, they know the language, they know the culture, and they know our weather, for one thing, right?
Absolutely. Is it possible you can give the committee in writing what sort of more funding you need to make sure we can help from our part to keep those students and keep the housing price up and keep the survey beautiful? Can you give us in writing what you need to the committee?
Definitely. I can get that to you ASAP.
Thank you. Madam Chair, how much time do I have left?
You have about 50 seconds.
Oh, 50 seconds. That's fantastic. Going back to Angela Graywall up there, since you know from the both sides, in our offices, I have two people work in my office basically on these immigration files. Time to time, after 4 months, we still don't get the initial saying they received the application. You mentioned the application can be done in Canada in 4 months, and it take up to a year in overseas. What would you advise? What would you tell the committee? What need to be done so the applications are done in a decent order time?
Mr. Stroyas, this is
Sorry
already.
for interrupting. Your time is up, Mrs. Raya. And now we will have our last round of questioning. Madame Martinez Parada, you have 2 minutes. You can please start.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. These last month and over the pandemic, our government or this pandemic dealt a blow to many employers and to many employees, and we've set up a program to help foreign workers who had closed permits to have open permits and to have their permits reduced from several weeks to 10 days. So how did that work? Can we do something more relative to this issue of open permits and rapidly issued permits to foreign workers in agriculture, for instance? Can either of the witness answer? Madam Graywall or Madam Armstrong?
I think IRCC has adopted things quickly where they've seen where they can. They have tried to adopt things quickly. So, in regards to applying for open work permits or an extension or the post-grad work permit issue I spoke of, um, I reference those things because I think those things are relatively can be done. So I think there are certain things that are realistic, and IRCC has tried to I believe, deal with a pandemic as best as they can. The situation keeps evolving and changing. So I do think that something could be done for individuals that require open work permits in essential sectors. Yes.
And what do you think we should be doing?
I think again we have to go back to the associations almost have to come to IRCC, advise what the issue is, present their case, and then a best what the situation is. We have to make IRCC aware of who's struggling. So if the
Sorry
tracking
for interrupting. The time is up. And with that, I would thank the witnesses for our first panel for appearing before the committee. If there is anything you would like to bring before the attention of the committee, you can send your written submissions and we will take them into consideration as we continue our study on the impact of COVID-19 on the immigration system. And I will suspend the meeting for 2 minutes to allow the witnesses for the second panel to log in and allow the clerk to get the sound checks done. So the meeting is suspended for 2 minutes. And thank you. number 7 to order. I would take this opportunity to welcome our witnesses for the second panel. We have appearing before us today, Mr. Robert Tyson, appearing as an individual. The second witness for today is Amit Kumar Verma, representing Hope Welfare Society. And also we have representatives from Collage Burial, Danielle Giroux, the president, Baptist Elaine Borquades, Director, Immigration Programs and Services, and Mr. Mark Deputy, Director, Communications. Welcome to all the witnesses. All the witnesses will have 5 minutes for their opening remarks, and I will start with Mr. Thiessen. Mr. Thiessen, you can start, and you have 5 minutes for your opening remarks.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair, thank you for permitting me the opportunity of taking part in this committee. My name is Robert Thiessen, and we are an adoptive family. In March of this year, we were in Accra, Ghana, desperate to get home. Ghana had closed its borders to all travel, and the Canadian High Commission was organizing a repatriation flight for Canadian citizens, and we were anxiously waiting for our newly adopted son's facilitation visa to be processed by the Canadian Immigration Office in Accra. We had submitted his application on August 29th of 2019, and since September 9th, we had not received any update from the Immigration Office. We had traveled to Nigeria on July 3rd of 2019 to adopt our second son, Samuel. In preparation of our trip, we ended all our employment, we sold our house, put all our belongings into storage. Our expectation was to be in Africa for at least 6 months to complete the adoption, wait for his facilitation visa and to be processed. Our expectation was based on our first son's adoption from Ethiopia in 2015. We received Solomon's facilitation visa 3 months after we submitted his application. Between September 11th of 2019 and March 16th of 2020, we made 4 personal inquiries to the Immigration Office via the prescribed channels. Our MP made 3 inquiries via the portal. In early March, when the situation with the COVID virus was serious, we tried to phone the Immigration Office 3 times. We received automated replies to our email inquiries. Our MP received an initial response that the Ministerial Inquiry Unit had requested the Immigration Office to expedite her application. This did not happen. 5 months later, our application had yet to be reviewed. On our flight to Nigeria, we met a family from the Netherlands who were also adopting from Nigeria. 4 weeks after their adoption was completed, they had all the necessary visas to travel home. In mid-March, Ghana's borders were closed, and we watched Prime Minister Trudeau urge Canadians to return home. We made a consular appointment at the Canadian High Commission, and in the appointment, we emphasized that we needed advice on how to proceed. We didn't know what the status of our son's application was, despite multiple inquiries, and now our government was urging all Canadians who could to return home. The individual at the High Commission was unaware of the Canadian government's advisory and was oblivious to our concern. We were assured that someone from the Immigration Office would contact us within 2 days. Nothing happened. To be in Africa was our choice, and we had expected to wait and be patient. We had no illusions of receiving any special treatment. We expected that we would need to be diligent in contacting the Immigration Office. The situation was different now. The Immigration Office was not responding to any of our inquiries, and the consular was unaware of the Canadian advisory, so we decided to take action. We started an email campaign. With the help of our friends and family, we sent out letters to MPs explaining the urgency of our situation and asked them to help us in our case. The response was terrific. We also reluctantly shared our story with the media. Given our situation in a global pandemic, trying to get home, we felt there was nothing to lose. Finally, on March 24th, the Accra Immigration Office requested additional information. 6 months after receiving our application, they were finally reviewing it. 2 days later, we received Samuel's facilitation visa, and on March 30th, we boarded a repatriation flight back to Canada. We waited 6 months for Samuel's application to be reviewed. While we waited, the Accra Immigration Office was indifferent to every inquiry we made. It was literally impossible to reach anyone by the prescribed channels such as email, phone, through our MP, and consular visit. It took a global pandemic, creating noise through an email campaign, going to the media, and having the deadline of a repatriation flight for the immigration office to respond. The transparency and communication from the immigration office is not acceptable by any standard. Canadians deserve better. We were lucky and had Samuel's application processed, but there are other Canadian adoptive families who are in limbo, and they need assistance in having their applications processed in a timely manner. Canadian families need to be treated with respect and given some form of priority. Adoption comes with many challenges. Dealing with an agency of the Canadian government should not be one of them. Future adoptive families can't afford the current level of service while they wait to be united with their children and bring them home to Canada. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Tyson. Thanks for your remarks. And now we will move on to Mr. Amit Kumar Verma, representing Hope Welfare Society. Mr. Verma, you have 5 minutes for your opening remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. It is my pleasure to appear before this committee and to speak regarding the impact of COVID-19 on our immigration system. COVID-19 has brought unprecedented changes globally and as far as for Canadians. So in this meantime, I would like to draw your attention towards the very important issue where immigration services were halted to everyone, and it caused further delay for processing files of for visitors, international students, and to spousal sponsorship applications. And even it has affected citizenship ceremonies. In the meantime, the fact that attracts me more is like there are some workers who came to Canada based on their temporary foreign work visas, and they arrived in Canada and they want to work for their employers, but due to pandemic, their employers' business were shut down, and they were shut down in such a way that they won't.
Madam Chair, just a point of order, there's no translation. I don't know if it's just me or not.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Survey. Mr. Clerk, if you can look into it.
Else?
Are we having some interpretation issues?
I'm on French. I don't have any translation.
Okay. We'll just allow Mr. Clerk to please look into it. Mr. Verma, the interpreter is asking if you can speak a bit louder and have the microphone near your mouth.
Yes,
right?
Madam Chair.
Yeah, if you can try again.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes,
and,
you can start.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. It is my pleasure to appear before this committee to speak to you regarding impact of COVID-19 on our immigration system. Ma'am Chair, I have a question. Should I take a small break? So in the meantime,
Madame la Présidente.
Madam Chair, I am not getting the interpretation. However, my colleagues who are on a different system are getting interpretation. So it seems that the issue is with Zoom.
Suspend for a second to allow Mr. Clerk to please look into it. The clerk is looking into it, so just wait for them to give a green signal before we can start.
And Madam Chair, there is interpretation now when you speak. There was no interpretation when Mr. Verma was speaking.
Mr. Verma, can you please try again?
Yes, ma'am. Should I speak in a short sentences so they can be
No,
simultaneous?
just speak a bit louder and have the microphone phone close to you. I'm
Uh,
seeing thumbs up from Madame Nohmadian. So you can please start.
okay, ma'am. In the main, should I speak a short sentences so in the simultaneously, ma'am, no demand can?
No, that's not an issue. That is not
Okay,
an issue.
okay, okay. Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. It is my pleasure to appear before this committee to speak about impact of COVID-19 on our immigration system. As all the immigration services were halted during COVID-19, the services like a refugee claim hearing, refugee eligibility hearings, visitor visa processings, and accompanying and issuing visa to international students, citizenship ceremonies, and delay in landing permanent residents to Canada. So in this COVID-19 situation has brought something unprecedented situation to Canadians and rest of the world. And this is a time that we should digitalize and innovative in order to meet out the ends of objectives of Immigration Act. And in this particular issues, I will talk about family reunification and the amount of time consumed in order to process their application. And there is a substantial delay in issuing temporary resident visa to foreigners and processing applications of
Madam Chair, can you ask the witness just to hold up his mic because we don't get translation.
Okay. Mr. Verma, if I can request you, maybe there are some issues. If you can turn your video off, we might have a better audio quality. And if you can have your microphone closer to your mouth.
Okay, ma'am, I will keep
sometimes that. Yeah.
No, okay, I will keep it near to.
Okay.
And so due to COVID, there are different situation has arose before immigration department as well as to individual those are who are in the process to obtain their necessary paperwork. For example, the refugees, they file their refugee claims online and it taking them more than usual time to process their application, even to reach their eligibility hearing, it taking a further lot time. So I would request that if there can be made some changes to it, for example, if the eligibility meetings can be done through Zoom using Zoom app, and there will be digitalization of applying postgraduate work permit as they should create a portal through which student put their information rather to add on or upload any paper-based application. So in that way, so they, the email portal should be designed in such a way so they automatically send an email to their concerned designated institute in order to verify their transcript or any other related matter. It will reduce workload from immigration department or case processing centers, and it will work towards the advancement so students may get their work permit on as early as they can do. So that's all for my introductory part about this immigration matters I'm seeking to talk about.
Thank you, Mr. Verma. Sorry for all these technical issues. So I'll just say it again that if you please speak a bit louder and keep the microphone close to your mouth, that would be great. Now we will move on to Collage Boreal and being represented by the President, as well as the Director Immigration Programs and Services and Director Communications. Mr. Girox, you have 5 minutes for your opening remarks, and I think you will be sharing your time with your other colleagues. So you can please start. You have 5 minutes for your opening remarks.
Merci à tout le monde et merci député.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you to Member Maxare. I'd like to say hello to you. So I am Danielle Giroux. I am the president of Collège Boréal. We have 38 sites in 26 communities in Ontario. In addition to offering 80 post-secondary programs and regular French at the post-secondary level, we also offer specialized trade training, continuous education, and several other language training opportunities. We are in favor of economic, social, and linguistic integration of newcomers to Canada for the last 15 years. We've been in Ontario. Our services include language courses, settlement courses, French tests for permanent residents, and citizenship tests, etc. Our program funding was renewed for 5 years last April, and services were extended to Sudbury in 2017 and Timmins in 2020. These communities have been welcoming more and more immigrants, largely due to an aging population and an exodus from major urban centres. Collège Boréal has served over 3,300 people in 2019-20 in 11 communities across Ontario. Our rapid integration programs and our programs for integrating the workplace have a placement rate of 84%. We welcome all newcomers, regardless of their language of origin, thanks to our socioeconomic integration and establishment programs. 78% of new arrivals choose to settle in major cities. Collège Boréal is one of the strengths to promote regionalization of immigration so as to attract newcomers outside the major urban centers. For several years, the French language immigration rate outside Canada has been estimated to be less than 2%. In 2019, the rate was 2.82%. The target of 4.4%, which the federal government set for 2023, is far from being reached. Applications from Francophone countries in Africa have a refusal rate that is higher, and we are wondering why. According to the IRC data, from January to May 2019, the permit applications from non-Francophone countries had approval rates of approximately 63% and 68% for India and China. Applications for work permits from Francophone countries has as low as 36% rates, dropping to 26% if you exclude France. Clearly, to Collège Boréal and others, COVID has had all kinds of challenges that it brought with it. And for us, language training and remote training or online training, of course, represents a major challenge. Our clientele needs support, and networking needs to be welcomed. And these extra students and clients become essential to help and support. Something else that's been a major challenge for us is the lack of employment opportunities for us. We see roughly 30% drop in international students. We have two major objectives. One, to improve the student visa approval rating for Francophone country students and facilitate access to permanent residency. We have 5 recommendations. 1, add human resources to processing offices, work permit offices, especially in Dakar, Senegal. 2, direct study component, which allows for accelerated and expedited processing for people from a specific country, should be available everywhere, not just in Senegal and Morocco. 3rd recommendation, access to federal establishment services which exists for temporary residents, in other words, student and work permit holders. 4th recommendation, invest in international students who are Francophone. Increase the admission quota for Francophone countries and make it easier to obtain residency, permanent residency. 5th recommendation, ensure the implementation of a French quota in any immigration pilot project for rural and northern communities. to meet the qualified bilingual labor force requirements and maintain the existing demographic weight of francophones. Thank you.
For their opening remarks. We will now move on to the first round of questioning, and we will start with Ms. Dencho. Ms. Dencho, you have 6 minutes for the round of questioning.
Okay, I'm just gonna turn on my timer here. Okay. Mr. Thiessen, I wanted to ask you a number of questions about your experience. I greatly appreciated your remarks. I thought they were very clear, and I just really feel terribly for what you and your wife went through and what your children went through. And I would just like you to share with the committee your thoughts on how specifically the government should be improving its immigration system concerning parents who are adopting from, well, really from anywhere, but particularly we're hearing a number of concerns with adoptions in Africa. So if you can just share specifically the changes you feel need to be made, that would be greatly appreciated.
Sure, thanks a lot. Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind is just some transparency that we would be able to know where our application is in the system. And secondly, people, for us, but also for many of the other families, it comes at quite a significant cost to travel overseas to build our family or to grow our family, and to be able to receive some form of priority in having our visas processed would be very helpful. Those are the two things that would really help. And it's one thing to know that it's going to take 6 months and 5 days for your visa to be approved. It's another thing to just, every attempt at a communication to receive a form email back. Your MPs receive a form email back. Nobody answers phones. You show up at the High Commission, and we purposely stuck to the protocol that had been laid out by immigration on how to communicate with them. And all of those avenues were literally impossible to get any kind of communication to let us know where we were, in the queue as far as getting our application processed.
And you mentioned that you mentioned that you've been following all the protocols, like you did everything you were supposed to. Were you surprised by the response from the federal government?
Yes, we were, because it took us doing an email campaign, to start raising a lot of noise. And when we left, there had been a previous family that had created a lot of noise, and we purposed that, this was our choice to go to Africa. We weren't going there and expecting any kind of special treatment. But when the delay became so extensive, and then you have COVID coming down on top, and the country's shutting down, and you go and visit the consulate, and they don't even know about Prime Minister Trudeau saying that we should be coming home. All of that was, it was very disturbing.
I think you mentioned in your remarks that you, maybe on the plane, or I'm not quite sure where, but you mentioned that you spoke with someone from the Netherlands, I believe.
Yes.
Can you share with us what their experience with their home country was with adoption?
So coincidentally, we sat on the flight with a family from Amsterdam to Lagos, Nigeria, and they were doing the same thing that we were doing. And their adoption process in Nigeria followed, in line with our adoption process, and we both completed it at the same time. And 4 weeks after they submitted to the government of the Netherlands, they had all their travel visas to bring their children home. And we hadn't even, we didn't get our first response till 6 months after.
Wow. So you said it took 4 weeks for them to get a
4
response,
weeks.
and for you, with incredible amount of pushing and calling various MPs and friends and email campaigns and media campaigns, finally after 6 months, you got a response. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Wow.
They had their visas in 4 weeks. They
Had
were
their
on a plane,
Wow.
kind of rubbing it in. At that time, we were having a great time in Africa. And I mean, we had a great time all the way through.
Right.
But we were getting desperate when, borders shut down and you're being told to come home, and you can't get any response from your,
Right.
government agency that's supposed to be there to help you out.
Mm. And I know we spoke with a lawyer in the last committee meeting last week that had dealt with a couple. I believe you may have met them They were adopting a child in Nigeria as well, but their daughter in Nigeria was sick, and they just now are getting home. I think on Wednesday after almost a year of being stranded.
Yeah, they got their visa today, so it's pretty exciting for them.
Oh, good. Yeah, when we spoke with them last week, they said that they were anticipating getting it today. So I'm glad that to hear the news that they have. So, do you have any words of wisdom for others that are pursuing the same avenues of you? Like, would you do you think that it should be viewed as a cautionary tale, or do you think that it's because of the pandemic that this is happening, or do you feel that I just trying to figure out what we can do to improve this situation so that others don't become stranded in foreign countries. You know, your savings are dwindling. I can imagine when speaking with the family from last week that there came a point where they felt that they would never get home. They had sort of lost faith, really, a number of times in the Canadian government to have their backs. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was, the part that was discouraging was when we applied for a visa for our first son. That visa came to us in 3 months, and it was processed in Nairobi, Kenya. And so we used that as for our planning when we prepared to go over there. And we figured, 3 months plus or minus, even if it's 4 months and then 2 months in Nigeria, 6 months, I think we're being very generous.
Sorry for interrupting, Mr. Thiessen. Your time is up. We will now move on to Ms. Dillon. Ms. Dillon, you have 6 minutes.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank all the witnesses for coming here today. I'm going to be addressing my questions to Collège Boréal. So I'll begin by asking you, and perhaps sharing with you, that our government has implemented steps to encourage students to register in Canadian universities, and also to encourage online learning and remote learning. As among the most recent, there's announcements. There's been the introduction of approved teaching methods and designated teaching institutions with COVID-19 response plans that have been approved by the provinces in question. What was the impact of this measure on students' access, those who had work permits to come to Canada, study permits, to come to Canada? Thank you for your question. Clearly, the decision to have 50% do remote learning had an impact on Collège Boréal. Beginning in September, we had several students, and the surprise was students who were able to study online or remotely or in alternative delivery modes. We plan to have another 25 to 50 students beginning in January. Well, of course, it depends on the clientele, but sometimes there's a problem of lack of network access, lack of internet access. This has a major impact on clientele. It depends on the country. So access to technology can be a major challenge. But yes, this is a major step in the right direction. And beginning on November 17th, I think the 24 Ontario colleges have been on the list to allow students to do up to 50% of their studies online and even to come to Canada to study. So that was good news for us. Excellent. Thank you. My next question is this. Our government is seeking innovative approaches to be able to help newcomers and better support them in their integration process. Do you think that we should continue to improve and support employment and benefiting from new technologies? And also, how do you see your organization benefiting from the changes made in the Immigration Department? Thank you. Excellent. I would ask Mr. Bourquedez to answer that part of the question because he's the expert in the field. Thank you, Madam Member. For the innovative approach, yes, Collège Boréal is quite innovative in terms of service delivery. We have been providing establishment services in several cities in Ontario, be it Windsor, Sonia, Chatham, London, This is all for settlement in Sudbury and Timmins as well. The approach to settlement is not just based on basic needs, but also on planning for economic integration. This considers both skills, experience, and know-how of new arrivals before they even come to Canada. So the idea is to be able to support newcomers towards careers of choice and sustainable jobs. So there's that vision that you're talking about at the federal level. Services that are supporting employment will be essential for this economic independence that's so important. The COVID situation has destabilized our resettlement services. A lot of services are being provided online, and they had to pivot very quickly. Since mid-October, we're back to the hybrid mode. In other words, we provide face-to-face services for people who are not equipped with technology or who cannot reach our settlement services either because they don't have phones or connectivity. So we have made a partial return to these services so that these kinds of people can access the services. In terms of language training, because we have settlement services, but we also have language training for newcomers. We call it CLIC, or language instruction for newcomers to Canada. We have pivoted. In a week, we transferred 35 classes with the people who were taking these classes. Even before COVID, we had been anticipating some sort of self-directed virtual learning and training programs. We had begun to design it last year, and it's operational today. So we had that online approach, which is available to people depending on where geographically they're located, whether they have a job, and what their family obligations are. So that's the kind of approach that will help us to go farther and to be able to serve these populations. Thank you very much. And my dear colleague, Member Serré, also has some comments for you, so I'd like to give the rest of my time to him. Thank you very much, Anjou. And Madam Chair, perhaps if there's any more time, I could give it to Member Sue. I would simply like to say, Collège Boréal, thank you for your commitment to Francophones everywhere in Ontario. And when it comes to immigration, it is so important. I'd like to thank you for your 5 recommendations, and we will be looking at them more closely because we must achieve our targets in order to attract Francophones. So thank you very much for your devotion. And
time left to ask a question?
No. It is 6 seconds. Thank you. Thank you. Now we will move on to Madame Normandien. Madame Normandien, you have 6 minutes. You can start, please.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all witnesses for your testimonies, including the deadlines and how long it takes to do processing.
Particularly on the issue of delays, I have a question as to the spaces in your establishments. Can you do you have enough room for all of the students that would come to you, or not enough? When we speak of targets for the Collège Boréal, we still have a capacity in agriculture, in business administration. And do we still have the ability to increase the number of students who come to Collège Boréal? As to the issue of delays and the complexity for students to come and study here, does that make you less competitive relative to other French-speaking establishments in the world? Looking at the process and the participation rate, some 25% of the people that are available who come to us and who, after having applied, that is, relative to the number of students who come from China and India and who come to study, they're welcome to a rate of 65 to 70%. So we may be behind for those students. There are many steps that are necessary, including biometrics. Some students have to go to other countries to get their biometric measurements. What would you think about doing biometrics when you arrive in Canada? I'll let Mr. Marc Despatie speak about that because he knows that field a lot better than I do. Mr. Despatie? Thank you, Mr. Giroux. I hope I can be heard. I think that is a very interesting solution, particularly for us, because our people mainly come from Western Africa. It's not easy for them to travel. Public transportation doesn't exist. There is a risk in going from one country to the next because some of these countries are at loggerheads, and these countries are not very rich. So if biometrics can be run in Canada, it would be a good thing, which is a risk, of course, because we don't know whether these people will pass the test or not, or succeed at the test or not. But to add to the answer, relative to other French-speaking institutions, we're not behind. I would say that all of the French-speaking institutions are lagging a bit behind relative to English-speaking institutions. I'd like you to speak about students who want to come here just for a studying period, which could be a bit of a difficulty because we could interest these people in staying in Canada once their studying is done. Well, that's an excellent point. The issue of studies in Canada for some 85% of our programs, they have a study session, non-paid, which is included, or rather, this is an employment period. So if we set up the mechanism to help these students to get these periods of employment, but when they have to be paid for, it's a lot more complex. But in some cases, when in the study program, if we can give them a way to work in a company, that would be good. So it would be advantageous for the program to have these employment sessions. And in terms of immigration, do you think this is a way for the future that these people would be first to come through skills learning or CIMM so that they can create a family and remain in the country? Mr. Becadez can answer the question. Yes, I think you're absolutely right. The approach of community college by turning people towards these kind of training and then giving them the ability to become autonomous is absolutely essential. Now, I would like to speak about the so-called relay programs. These are 5-month training sessions which will reduce the barriers with language training, technical and cultural training.
Time is up. We will now move on to our last round of questions before we end this panel. Ms. Kwan will have 6 minutes for her round of questioning. Ms. Kwan, you can please start.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and I thank all the witnesses for their presentations. I'd like to direct my question to Ms. Thiessen. And first, did I pronounce your name correctly? I hope I did. Thiessen. Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank
First,
you.
congratulations. Super happy for you and your family. You made it back.
Yes, thank
and,
you.
and that's wonderful news. I too actually had a horrible experience for one of my constituents with the adoption cases. Mr. Gary Lamb, in fact, back in March, tried to get their permanent residence application in, and what they needed really was the unique client identification number. And they started this process back in March. And then by June, they were getting zero response whatsoever from IRCC. And that's when they reached out to my office and we tried to intervene. When we contacted IRCC, we were amazed to find that adoption was not deemed to be a case that would require urgent processing.
Yes.
And that's what we were told. So I'm going to pause here and ask your thoughts about that, because I was quite taken aback, because if they did not proceed with urgent processing, they could lose their adoption placement. And that's a serious thing for a family. So I'd like to just pause here and get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm definitely biased in this, so take it with a grain of salt. But you know, we're trying to make a better life. You know, with the risk of sounding like, I mean, we're here to form a family, grow our family, and to be put into limbo, particularly with some of the adoptions out of Western Africa, where you have to travel there and remain there until it's processed, to find out that as Canadian citizens doing this, that you're not given any form of priority, that you're in the same queue with everybody else. To me, again, like I said, it's a little self-serving now, but you know, it just doesn't seem right. And I would say the number of people Canadians going to do these type of adoptions it's not a staggering number. It's a small number. It's a small percentage of people, and to warrant them some form of priority, I think is the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the IRCC office told us that the scope for adoption fell outside of "quote unquote" critical functions for the office to expedite processing. So now we, of course, escalated the matter and brought it to the minister's attention. But through that process, we also discovered that there was a series of errors made. In fact, my constituent was given misinformation and contradictory information.
Yes, that's not uncommon. We've weeded through that too. It's our second adoption. So we were veterans in it, and we helped a lot of other the two families that were there with us. But yeah, that is not uncommon at all.
Okay, so that raises a serious question, right? Because people follow the instructions from IRCC, and then only, months later to discover that they were told that that's misinformation. They should not have followed that advice. And here's another thing that they should be doing. So, I just can't imagine the anxiety that the family would have to endure in the face of that. So on that question, what can the government do to fix this aspect of the issue?
Well, I'm not sure if there's a government fix for that, because we use the website, which is basically accurate. We had adoption facilitator that helped us here in Ontario that we relied on strongly. So to me, it was a specific to the office in Accra that seemed to have, in our case, so that seemed, it was particular to that office that misinformation was coming out of that office. And so the other thing is, I have my partner is very tenacious, so she knew what was on the website. She knew what the facilitator had told us. And so we had to become our own advocates, continuously going back, despite information being given to us. So I don't know if there's a government fix for that. That's the unfortunate thing, if people are just giving out the wrong information. Even though there is information out there, you just have to go hunting for it.
Yeah, I'm a little bit troubled by it. I have to say, I wrote to the minister about this entire situation, asking for the case to be expedited. Eventually, I began this process myself through my office back in June. My constituents started the process back in March. We eventually just made the deadline so that the family did not lose the child and managed to bring the child home. And that was at the end of August. That's where the application finally was processed, where they were able to get their unique identification number. But I wrote to the minister about all of this, and the minister had said, and the letter I wrote was back in July, by the way. And the minister said that they would look into, especially on the issue around contradictory information. And I have yet to receive a response from the minister on that specific case. And so, so on cases like this, I mean, and in other situations, we had family sponsorship coming through where people are constantly being rejected for their application because the dual intent measure, it doesn't actually really work for people. And people have been calling to say, look, there needs to be some sort of complaint process, an independent complaint process to look into these kinds of matters. Would you support the idea of a, you know, kind of like an immigration ombudsman so that people can go to that person and have these kinds of issues dealt with effectively and efficiently?
Sorry for interrupting, Ms. Kwan. Time is up.
Maybe I can just get a quick yes or no.
Yes, please.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. No, without a doubt. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
With this, I want to, on behalf of myself and all the members of the committee, I want to thank all the witnesses for appearing before the committee and providing important recommendations as we continue our study on the impact of COVID-19 on the immigration system. If any one of you feels that you need to put something for the attention of the members, please, you can submit here. You can send the written submissions to the clerk of the committee, and we will take that into consideration as we continue our study and compile the report. So with this, thank everyone and stay safe, and the meeting is adjourned.